I'm here with Oliver Herbert, who's going to be joining Maestro Fawzi Haimor and the Marin Symphony later this month as soloist in Shostakovich's first cello concerto. Oliver, welcome. We're all really looking forward to having you back here in Marin.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also really looking forward.
So you're speaking with us today from Germany, which is home base for you now.
Mhm.
Since we last saw you in 2019, 7 years ago, performing Elgar's cello concerto with Alistair Neil in the orchestra, you've had lots of opportunities, lots of high-level performances, and this is still the beginning of what I'm sure is going to be a brilliant career. I'm curious what life looks like for you right now. Could you maybe give us a little snapshot of, say, a month in the life of Oliver Herbert?
Sure. Well, the truth is that it's always changing, and but as you mentioned, now I've been living in Germany, specifically in Kronberg, which is near Frankfurt, and I've been involved for the last 3 years at the Kronberg Academy, which where I've been doing a professional studies program. And what that looks like is sort of it's a kind of like a residency and a place that I can be and sort of base myself and meet a lot of great musicians that come through to Kronberg through Europe, because it's a bit of a musical hub in Germany. And that's been really wonderful. But also that program that I've been a part of is coming to a close, and so now I'm actually in a bit of a transition right now. I'll be staying in Germany as my base, but continuing. I mean, I travel very frequently back to the U.S. to play, and also around Europe, and it's been really fun to explore a lot of new places and new things here. Um, but a month in the life is each month looks completely different. I typically traveling half of the time, I would say. Like every other week I'm away from home doing something. So sometimes it's a couple weeks in the US. Like for instance, uh, later this month I'll be going to New York and then to San Francisco. And so I try to combine things together so that the travel works out nicely. But yeah, performances with orchestras like we'll be doing in Marin. Also, a lot of chamber music, which is a very central part of my musical life, and some recitals with piano, and more. Also, I've had the opportunity to do my own um, programs and curating concerts as well, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, so
Tell us
that's
about one of those.
sure. Well, I recently actually just did a one here in Kronberg that maybe could be a good example, where it was mostly centered around new music or living composers. So we had a very short canon by Johann Sebastian Bach for four voices. So we played that in string quartet. Uh, then we played a string quartet by Helena Winkelmann, who's a wonderful Swiss composer, and called Sleipnir the Eight-Legged, which is based on Norse mythology. And then a world premiere by my friend Andrew Moses, who's a California, he's from LA, but somebody that I go back a long time with, and I find him to be an amazing composer, and he wrote a new solo cello piece for me, so I played that piece, and then we finished with John Adams' Shaker Loops, which to me is like one of the great masterpieces from San Francisco. So it was really fun to bring a piece of home to Germany.
Yeah, cool
And
program.
usually these concerts have a theme or a through line to them. So in this case, this concert was about centered around well, the title was Wie bitte, which in German means something like come again, or it's what you say when you hear something and you want it to be repeated. And so it was playing with this idea of what is repetition in music, and the idea that when things return through things appearing maybe in the same form but in different contexts, we start to construct meaning. And I also find that to be a nice metaphor for how it works also with colleagues in the music world. That sometimes, with a composer like Andrew, for instance, we met for the first time at the Yellow Barn Music Festival in Vermont. He's also a clarinet player. We played Brahms together, and then later he ended up coming to Curtis when I was studying there in Philadelphia. And so this idea of also the returning of people in life and how these relationships take on new forms and sort of tying those ideas together and bringing to the audience a lot of music that at least here is not done very often. So is a lot of new things for the listeners. But so I enjoy that a lot, thinking about in different contexts what kind of music I want to present to the audience and what I think could be interesting in different places.
Have you thought about touring any of those programs or bringing them to, say, the
Yeah,
US or anywhere else?
I have. I did also one that involved multimedia in the sense of short scenes from silent films that I had cut with my movie director friend, and the repertoire for that was a Hindemith solo sonata, a Shostakovich quartet number 14, and then a piece by Schoenberg called Ode to Napoleon, which is kind of in a way, a satirical piece about it's a poem set. The text is by Lord Byron, which is sort of a satirical piece on the idea of power and Napoleon's rise to power. And so for me, I was thinking for this program, what would it be possible to create a concert that the audience comes and it's sort of a mystery experience where they see something, they hear a piece, and then throughout the evening, progressively, you sort of figure out where this concert is really culminating and sort of what the message is and the takeaway. And in this case, I found for this program, I was inspired by the idea of pressure, which was the title of the program, and specifically the pressure when one, whether it be in business or in politics or whatever else, wants to gain power, and the point in which what they've achieved ends up creating a pressure of maintaining it that takes somebody in another direction that maybe they could never have imagined. And so that program, I think, was really something I'd like to bring to other places, and I'm certainly thinking about how to do that. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it's great to hear that you're doing contemporary music, working with living composers, and I love the conceptual things as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Shostakovich Concerto that you'll be performing here. Maybe I'll just share that when I first contacted you about coming back to Marin, I had several pieces in mind. And before there was any discussion of any other pieces, the word that came back was, yes, I'd be happy to come to Marin to play Shostakovich's first concerto. So clearly that was the piece that was going to be a fit for you. Maybe tell us why that is. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
timing or the piece
Mhm.
itself. What else is going on in your life?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a piece that I have played before, but it's something that I'm also very keen on diving deeper into, and I love the work. And it also happened to be something that I'm playing around the same time. And so, for instance, in June, I'll be playing it with the Grant Park Music Festival in
Mhm.
Chicago. And so that was also a consideration for me that, it's if I have the luxury of being able to suggest a piece or ask about a piece of repertoire, for me, it's wonderful if I can focus on particular works for a larger period of time,
Sure.
as opposed to, I mean, I often am switching week to week, which is also completely fine too. But I enjoy being able to kind of, if I get to do it a few times in a row, I can go even deeper and sort of stay with the piece in a little bit of a longer time frame. Um, yeah, so those were basically the reasons. I mean, that I love the work, and also I knew I'd be playing it around that time, so it seemed
Sure.
like something at least asking if it fits. And typically, as you mentioned, this is my second time working with the Marin Symphony, so it's in those occasions that there's more opportunity to have the conversation about repertoire than oftentimes, if I'm invited for the first time, it's the piece is clear and I kind of just happily accept what people suggest. But I was very grateful that you all were open to having a conversation about it.
Oh, more than open to it. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the piece itself, your connection with it. I know this is a piece that is legendarily difficult, if that's a word,
Mhm.
but so much more. Work with an interesting history. What thoughts do you have about that work?
Yeah, well, it's a sort of a singular work for cello. I mean, of course, we have the second concerto by Shostakovich, which has a very different. That one is in a way much more expansive in its feeling. This piece, I think, has a very distilled and intense quality, and a lot of energy that's kind of wound up and wrapped into a very tight form. It's very efficiently written, very direct in a way. The first movement is a very interesting combination between, on the one hand, being very persistent and intense and focused, but also maybe containing another dimension of something slightly humorous at the same time. So it's like you can tell that there's maybe a lot of underlying tension and a lot of energy, but you don't know exactly where that where the rabbit hole goes in a way. It's like you feel as if there's something under the surface that you've yet to discover. Like where's this music coming from? Where's this idea coming from? And then in the second movement, that's where Shostakovich really introduces this more lyrical and kind of elegiac quality, very personal, very mournful, but in a sort of post-traumatic, mournful atmosphere. So it's a little bit numb while being very intense. So I would say the something in general about the piece is that it contains juxtapositions, emotional juxtapositions, which make it so successful and make it so interesting. And that second movement also contains a lot of folk elements that you'll hear, influences in that sense. And it builds and builds and builds into a big outburst involving the entire orchestra, like an outcrying of music. And then from that point dissolves into what is also very particular about this concerto. The third movement is just a solo cello cadenza, which is quite extended.
That's remarkable. I don't think there's anything else like it.
Yeah, and so I mean, he has that. For instance, in the violin concerto, you can also see that, but it's like the protagonist is dropped into the void. Like protagonist being the solo cello, let's say,
Yes.
is in the void at that point, and that's when it starts in this third movement, which is all solo cello. It's very inward at first and kind of explorative, but then has like a very gradual and long buildup of tension and energy, which is for my point of view as a performer very difficult. One of the big challenges of the piece is gauging that and kind of controlling that buildup, which eventually propels propels all of us into the last movement, which is really very, yeah, very crazy, very virtuosic, um, and kind of anything that you sensed in the first movement. Like I said, this underlying fire completely explodes at that point, and it's sort of like a big release to the end, and it's a very exciting piece. I mean, to play it, it feels really like a journey,
Yeah.
and that's something that I really love about it. Particularly this third movement, cello cadenza, into the last movement. There's no pause or break there. I mean, also the second movement does lead in to the third as well, but really like the halfway point where you're left alone from the beginning of that third movement cadenza to the end of the piece is like this gradual increase of more and more intensity, and it's something I think super exciting to play, but also for the audience really quite thrilling. So yeah, that's kind of what I would have to say about the piece overall and the experience of it.
Well, hearing you talk about it makes me even more excited to hear you come here and play it in just a few weeks. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
taking a few minutes with us this morning and looking forward to seeing you very soon.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, thanks so much.